finally time to plant up my driveway container. Hi everybody, I'm Lori. Welcome back to Milkweeds and Roses. I have been waiting for a rose for this container for 3 months. It was to be a standard rose that I would just enjoy the beautiful blooms and then wheel it into the garage for the winter and, in and out every year and, set up to do that. But I got word about a week ago that the order was canceled, so I had to start over. So what I've found instead is a rose that I've ordered. This is from Heirloom Roses, Dancing in the Wind. It should have some peachy pink blooms. This is just a shrub rose, but they do list it as something that is compatible with containers if you have a big enough container. And I'll show you this. This is a pretty big container. They pare it down quite a bit for shipment, as you can see. I don't know. See, it's just sticks. But it will leaf out quickly, so I'm fairly confident in that if we set it up properly. So with that in mind, let's plant up a container rose and I'll show you what I do. So to start with, now I filled this huge container, ceramic container, with soil, probably up to here, about with an inch of the top, nearly 3 months ago, because that's again how long I've been waiting for this rose to arrive. But as you can see here, this shows you how much soil can actually sink. It's just a natural thing as you water it and as the season progresses. So the gladiolas that I had popped in there quite a bit earlier, and these just non-hardy annuals, they continue and they're coming up, and that's great. But yeah, I'm gonna have to replenish the soil, at least the top layer, as well as put in a few annuals to brighten up the container, because as I said, it's gonna be a while before this rose leafs out into anything interesting enough to hold this attention of this huge container. So this container is probably, as you can see from here, it's well over 100 pounds by the time you fill it with dirt. So it's really heavy, it's very deep, and it is full of soil. I don't have a filler empty element in this to take up space, because I intend to have a rose in here for a couple of years and to need that root space. So it's probably a good 3 feet deep. So it's meant to be a centerpiece in the driveway and amongst my container garden that I have in the driveway. So I can put annuals in here to fill out the color, but I want to maintain something that's going to work with the peachy pink rose. So I have celosia, it's in that bright yellow color. Ouch, I found this cute little annual. Tattoo papaya, just a little vinca, which I think is very cute. Now I did bring out, this is a perennial, although I never have good luck with lavender, but sensational lavender, which is supposed to be hardy down to a zone 5. So after the fall comes, before I wheel this containerized rose back in the garden, I might leave this in here and see how it does. I just know it doesn't make it through winters, no matter where I've tried it. I also have a coleus, which again is a nice bright, almost a chartreuse, but it's apparently a coleus that likes the sun. And I have Cheyenne Spirit coneflower, as you can see from the color. Now this is a perennial, so I could either leave it in the container, and again I'm going to wheel this whole thing into the garage for the winter, or I can take this out and put it in the landscape. So I'll just kind of see how it goes. I also have, this is just another annual, just a little petunia, which again, I like things that would complement the peachy pink of this rose. This particular one is called Cicada, if you can read that. So we'll see. I kind of picture this as almost a spiller element, but I don't know if that's going to work. So I didn't want to put in sweet potato vine or anything like that that will take up a lot of root space and grow too quickly. I just want some nice color now, and here we are late in the season, and so it will be nice to have something to look at here besides just these spindly little plants that I've been looking at for a while. So that said, let's get started. Now I do have some, I will replenish the soil. Let me get around. Rose is the first thing to go in, and then I'll add these things and see what fits. But before we even get started with the rose, I'm going to have to replenish some of the soil. Now I do have some, make sure you can see this, some rose. It's from Heirloom Roses. It is their proprietary, pre-prepared soil, which has some good drainage. A lot of it looks like grit in here. Now I don't want to have these plants be too terribly deep that are existing, at least for these little annuals. So I might take these out and lift them and replant them. The gladiolas, which can be upwards of 6 feet deep to help the stems be strong so they don't topple, those can stay in here. But let me get these babies out and we'll put them back in. It's nice and dry in here, let me tell you. Containerized roses, you also have to be careful how you fertilize them. So to that end, I have aged cow manure that I'm going to top off as almost a compost. Let me mix this up here. This is really dry. I have some aged cow manure that I'm going to use as almost like and mix it in and use like a top dressing almost to help with moisture retention. And the first year of a rose, you should not fertilize it with those granulated fertilizer, and the same thing for the soil that you use. Should not have that granulated fertilizer because it's too harsh and it can burn the roots. Now, I have had that happen. It's not just first I thought, is that just a gimmick for these guys to sell their own soil? Sounds good, but yeah, there was something to it because I have had problems with that. All right, let's see how that does. That's pretty good about filling up the pot so far. I'm going to add in though, and I want to have it about an inch right below the surface, so not completely over the top, because then when you water it, it falls out. The water just rolls out. Now, I'm also going to include, since the soil that has been in here that I put in originally has been in here for nearly 3 months, I mean, it's still good for a rose, but it needs maybe a little boost. So I'm going to add some mycorrhizal. This is a bit of a root stimulator for the rose. It's still very mild. I'm also going to put in some bone meal. Guess I'm not real precise here, but this stuff is very mild, so I wasn't too worried about it. Now, some of the plants, one of the plants particularly, the perennial that I chose to put in here, this is worm castings, does not like super fertile soil. It likes well-drained, kind of sparse soil, and that is the lavender. So that's the reason why I may take that lavender out at the end of the season and put it in my rose garden. I don't know. I've tried that, and I can't seem to get it to come back. I mean, if you are in zone 5B, maybe you can tell me how you do it if you have lavender that comes back reliably every year, because I haven't hit on it just yet. Okay, now, again, the last step will be the cow manure on top. It's nice and dark and black, and we'll fit that in. Now, let's go ahead and position the rose. Take it out of its container and see how well it's been rooted here. I like to plant roses a lot earlier than this, let me tell you, because this is kind of harsh weather. Oops, for a newly planted rose. It's hot and it gets dry. Of course, that's not quite as much of an issue in a container, but ideally it would have been great to have this at least a month ago. All right, not too deep. All right, that ought to be just about right. The other stuff will fill in around it. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of cow manure, about an inch or so on top. So this will be good. These guys ring the outside. Let's get the coleus. Again, I like this bright color, this contrast here with the peachy pinks that I've got this year. I always tuck the tags in so I know the variety. This particular variety, what does it say? Main Street Riverwalk. Main Street Riverwalk. So I tuck it in there because I will not remember. To loosen up the roots, it's a bit root bound. That is not a surprise this time of year. Okay. I'm trying to keep things directly away from the root ball of the rose. So this is a bit tall right now. So I'm going to put this more towards the back. This variety they call Flama Golden Celosia. Whoops, I got to tuck that tag in before I lose it. Put them all together. So honestly, I probably could, looks like I could separate this. Let's try that. I think we're going to be all right. Okay. And these back here, opposite side. Again, all these things like full sun. So when you're planting up a container with perennials and annuals or all of them together, again, this is Cheyenne Spirit, you do have to make sure that they are at least compatible sun-wise, and it helps if they're also compatible moisture-wise. Now the celosia is probably going to want more water than these other things. I'm pretty sure already I don't have room for the lavender because I'd like to get these other annuals back in here. At least one of them. You know, I think I'm going to put the vinca and the other up front. I might put these in my rose garden. These three things. Yeah, it's significantly got a lot of roots. Open that up a little bit. Okay. Right up front. There's my other tags. There they are. Tags. Right up here. Okay. And then, last but not least, this little annual. Again, Pachoa. It's a Pachoa. Cicada is the variety they list. And I'm going to try to keep the front of this rose free from anything that might block the sun it's going to get. So I'm going to put that little Pachoa right here next to the vinca. In other words, leave one little bare spot right up front where the rose has, there you go, free access to the sun. Okay, see how this goes. That celosia might be too tall, but again, it's not going to be in there forever. All right, now cow manure on top. Pardon my struggle as I lift and open, raise these things around. Now, planting in a container, I will tell you, is so much easier than planting in the ground because you don't have the bending, that type of thing. Now this cow manure is aged cow manure so that it's not hot, in other words, or too strong. If it's steaming, let it sit, let it be. You don't want that. Put more in here, so this serves as a fertilizer as well as helps with moisture. There's no smell to it because it's aged. But it's nice and black. It is moist, I've noticed. Again, that's not surprising for cow manure. The stuff I had, I'll put the rest of this probably in my rose garden. Probably putting a good inch here on top. And then we'll water the whole thing. Now probably what I'll still do is put some decorative rocks on top, and that is to discourage the eastern chipmunks that like to bury nuts this time of year. As the nuts start to ripen from the neighbors' black walnut trees, they start harvesting them and looking for places to put them for the winter, and they forget where they put them. That's why I've got new little seedlings coming up, black walnut trees. And it tends to be areas that are freshly dug because they're easier to bury things in. So, okay, I'll water that and then I'll get some rocks for the top. Okay, and by the way, the fertilizer that I use for the first year of my roses is Founder's Fish Fertilizer. And it's, as you can see, very mild. You mix it with water, about 20% of your water that you put in. You can mix it stronger because it's not going to burn them, but there's really no point in wasting it. Nothing's cheap. So let's get this watered and the other plants in the landscape. Here we go. And we'll get this back in position where it needs to be. So I like the way this has come together now. It looks good from a distance, which is what the whole intention of a driveway garden should be, a container garden should be. Now in the winter, yes, the ones I'm going to keep, I'm going to roll into the garage, but I've designed it that way. So I keep the pots minimal here, but this rose will be, I think, just fine, and I'll keep you posted. Hopefully you should subscribe so we can see how she develops. But it just kind of shows you don't need a huge garden bed and a lot of space to grow a rose. You can put it in a container. It just takes a little bit of work. I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye.